Pakistan was already in the throes of a political crisis over a NATO air raid that left 24 soldiers dead, and now President Asif Ali Zardari has been flown for medical treatment to Dubai, leaving behind rumours that he is going to step down. And Hamid Karzai, president of neighbouring Afghanistan, has blamed 3 bomb attacks in 3 Afghan cities on a Pakistan-based insurgent group. It seems that for Pakistan, it never rains but it pours. The NATO raid of November 26th was just the latest episode that has strained relations between Islamabad and Washington. The United States hit on Osama bin Laden, ongoing drone attacks, and a CIA agent scandal had already caused uproar in the South Asian nation. The fallout has been massive. Pakistan closed US military supply lines to Afghanistan and pulled out of this week's conference on Afghanistan. As Islamabad rethinks its strategic alliance with the US, Washington is pondering whether Pakistan is worth the $20 billion of aid it has provided since 2001. To probe these issues, we hosted a debate with 2 experts on Pakistani security. In the studio, we were joined by James Blake, an intelligence analyst for the Risk Advisory Group. Over the phone from Islamabad, we had freelance journalist Tom Hussain. I started out by asking James Blake about the implications of President Zardari's health problems.
President Zardari's had a minor heart attack. It seems to have been met, or certainly some of the US magazine in particular, that not only has he had this heart attack, but there are certainly reports in this US magazine that it's also a prelude to him stepping down. Whether that's correct remains to be seen. But you're certainly right. It's the latest indication of ongoing problems in Pakistan.
And turning to you, Tom, in Islamabad over that, what are people saying over there? The speculation about his resignation, and what does that bode for the future?
I think people over here have pretty much understood that the speculation is incorrect. Asif Ali Zardari's role as president is not just simply stuck to him being the president personally. He's there to act as a stopgap to allow his son, who is also obviously the son of the late Benazir Bhutto, to step in after the next election. And he will hold on for as long as it takes. He's a very tough character. He spent a good 10 years in jail under 2 different regimes, one of them military. And the health problems we've seen surface now are basically complications from his stay in jail, and he has other ailments too.
Sticking with you, Tom, in Islamabad, we understand that Pakistan has recalled some of its ambassadors and it's having a bit of a foreign policy rethink following on from the NATO raid which led to the deaths of 24 soldiers. Can you give us the latest, what's happening there?
As far as the rethink is concerned, that's something that's been in the works for some time. There's been a lot of pressure internally from the public, from the various power lobbies, including the military, for the government to step away from relationships and reevaluate relationships which were formed, agreed upon when Pervez Musharraf was the president of Pakistan.
Opening this up to either of you, we've seen the protests in Islamabad and other parts of Pakistan. How important were the deaths of those 24 soldiers on the 26th of November in shaping public opinion compared to what's been happening over the past few months? Constant drone attacks, the killing of Osama bin Laden in May, the CIA agent episode.
People are very angry, but the anger is not just directed at the United States. They were very angry over the episode of Osama bin Laden's killing with the military. They were asking the military questions of why didn't they do something about it? Why didn't they know, as they claimed, that the chief of Al-Qaeda is sitting next to the country's biggest military academy? As far as the drones are concerned, that is something which takes place way into the tribal areas, and is very much a case of out of sight, out of mind. This is very different. This post has been in the public eye because there have been attacks by Pakistani Taliban insurgents launched from the other side of the border, from Afghan territory, and those posts were reinforced over the last 2 months with military personnel taking over from paramilitary. So what you saw were 25 regular soldiers killed, an army major killed. And Pakistan is absolutely livid about that, more angry than their government, more angry than their army.
And James, how do you see this? Does Pakistan have any realistic alternatives to US as its main strategic ally?
Well, I think when considering the US relationship with Pakistan, a number of strategic issues need to be taken into account. Obviously, over the past few years in particular, the reliance on the US has been important for military aid and also economic aid. And if you're looking into alternative states to kind of fill that gap, that void, if they're looking to move away from the US relationship, I think that's going to be very difficult. And there's always speculation in the media, and we read regular articles that it's going to turn to its all-weather friend China. But if you look at the relationship between Pakistan and China in comparison to the one which has been in place with the US since the beginning of the US war on terror, the so-called US war on terror, I think that it's very different, and it revolves around a number of different issues, in particular the Chinese advantage from foreign investment in Pakistan itself. And there have actually been some very interesting examples of the strain on that relationship over recent weeks and months, particularly in Balochistan, where a Chinese firm has just pulled out of because of ongoing security risks. So I think that while obviously it's a very unpopular relationship on the streets of Islamabad and elsewhere across Pakistan, in terms of the strategic importance, both from a military and financial perspective, there are probably very few alternatives for the PPP-led government.
Tom, isn't that important? I mean, I think that US assistance, security and economic aid to Pakistan has been in the region of $20 billion since 2001. That's going to be quite a lump of money to walk away from.
Oh, certainly. I'd like to pick up on the strategic partnership. I think we have to recognize that Pakistan's relationship with the United States is one which is actually sewn into the fabric of its very government, its very state. It goes back to the 1950s, when the US came in and started training the Pakistani military. And for a good 10 years, Pakistanis who couldn't afford their own wheat were living off donated flour from the US. That relationship has soured, and because of that, Pakistan has very strong relations with China and Saudi Arabia. Yes, it would be incorrect for anyone in Pakistan to assume that the Chinese would play a role similar to the US in terms of providing aid. The relationship between Pakistan and China is one of mutual benefit and a coincidence of strategic objectives in continental Asia. But when you come to the actual US aid and the amounts we're talking about, I'd like to point out here that there wasn't a structured civilian aid program between the US and Pakistan until the Kerry Lugar-Berman bill was approved in November 2009. The vast majority of the money had gone to the military as reimbursements or providing training or providing them certain military equipment like Bell helicopters, for instance. What they really need from the US is support at multilateral financial forums like the World Bank, the Asian Development Bank, and from time to time at the IMF, because that's where they find their funding for their major development projects.